Let's bring in Kayleigh McEnany, White House press secretary. She's on the other side of the building on the north lawn. Kayleigh, good morning to you.
Good to join you, Steve.
Okay, so when the president signed that executive order, does he really intend to implement those things, or is this just another one of those negotiation tactics that Donald Trump is famous for?
Oh, he most certainly intends to implement the 4 executive orders pertaining to unemployment insurance, student loans, the payroll tax holiday, and evictions. The American people need relief. And, Chuck Schumer, it's funny listening to him there talk about these executive orders as not being enough. Well, what have Democrats put forward? Precisely nothing, except rejecting, at least on 2 occasions, a $600 clean extension of unemployment insurance. They have been fundamentally unserious in playing games on the back of the American people, while President Trump has acted in the American people's best interest.
Kayleigh, there's violence and looting in Chicago. We're seeing that actually on the Magnificent Mile now. The riots in Portland. What's the president going to do about that today?
Yeah, so the president has put in place Operation Legend, which has so far succeeded in arresting 250 individuals and charging 250 individuals across the country pertaining to civil unrest. Portland, as you know, we've secured the courthouse. But what has been so interesting to see there is finally, it took 70 nights, but finally you have the liberal Portland Mayor Wheeler saying that if you lock police officers in a building and tend to trap them in there, use an accelerant to commit arson, you are committing attempted murder, not demonstrating. It is completely reckless that it took a full 70 days for the liberal mayor to finally acknowledge that that's an unacceptable status quo, and these aren't just peaceful demonstrations, as he tried to show wrongheadedly when he walked among these rioters.
So, Kayleigh, one of the big stories around the world remains COVID-19 and the surge back in Melbourne. They shut that city down. It's coming back in Germany and Spain. It's coming back in a little bit in South Korea and Japan, but not like it is here. And it goes back to testing. Now, when you see the CDC evidently is coming up with a saliva test, what can you tell us about that? And do you agree with some who say if these labs can't get a test back to an American citizen in less than 3 days, they shouldn't get paid for it because they're useless?
Yeah, I'll leave it to the president about that specific provision, but what I would say is this: Dr. Birx and our team here have been hard at work to do pool testing to reduce the testing turnaround time, and we have seen some success there. We in the United States have been #1 in testing in the entire world by a long shot, more than 65 million tests, comparing that #2 at India to around 18 million. We've done extraordinary work, and when you talk about new tests, Brian, like a saliva test, we have more than 100 emergency use authorizations, exploring even more testing capability above the Abbott test and the rapid turnaround tests and the other tests that are currently available on the commercial market.
You know, Kayleigh, something I was reading yesterday, trying to catch up after a week away. I'm shocked at the number of people who are getting into fights over masks. I mean, there was some guy who punched, I think, a 75-year-old guy, partially disabled vet, in the jaw, and broke his jaw because the guy said, hey, your girlfriend isn't wearing a mask. Where does the president stand on encouraging people, don't get into a fight about it? Either they're going to wear a mask or they're not.
Yeah, no one should be fighting over this, but what we should be doing is doing what is patriotic, which is when you can't socially distance, wear a mask. I was with the president last week when he wore a mask when he couldn't socially distance. He's done it several times. That's where he stands, that it's the American people, it's the right thing to do if you're standing close to someone, and no one should be fighting over it nevertheless.
Hey, Kayleigh, what's the deal on the rapid test? Because I know some friends that stood in line for a long time. They had to travel from way out on Long Island down to over to Brooklyn to get in line and get these tests. I know some other people that there are only like 3 clinics on Long Island that are doing this. People who find out maybe someone they were around has tested positive, they want to get the rapid test to know if they need to go back to work or if they need to quarantine. What's the latest on getting more rapid tests out there so people don't have to wait in these long lines?
Yeah, so it's important. The rapid tests are available throughout the nation, but we have prioritized making sure that the rapid test gets to places where we have vulnerable communities, like our nursing homes, where we've pushed a lot of this testing to protect America's seniors. But there is, even in our testing system as it currently stands, excess testing capacity, because some of the tests that do take a few days are not fully being utilized. So there's excess capacity in the system, but you're right that surging rapid tests where we can is important, specifically in our nursing homes.
So China has sanctioned, in response to our sanctioning some of their lawmakers, they've sanctioned 11 of ours, including Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, Pat Toomey. We have, and also another congressman from South Jersey. No Trump officials. What's your reaction to China's reaction to our sanctioning of them?
Yeah, China stands on notice because this president has been unmistakable in standing up to China. You've seen him with the Phase 2 China deal, pushing that deal through like no other president could or has in history. He's taken action sanctioning against the abusive treatment of the Uyghurs, no longer recognizing Hong Kong's autonomous status because of Chinese intervention. So this president has stood unmistakable. China may try to sanction back, as you just noted, but this president has stood firm against China, and he'll continue to.
All right, Kayleigh, thank you very much for joining us today. North Lawn of the White House.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kayleigh.